The majority of road cyclists tend to use the Shimano SPD-SL clipless pedal system. It's pretty ubiquitous, to be honest with you. The thing is, the official Shimano pedals, they're not actually very lightweight. They're 105 PD-R9000 pedals, the kind of mid-tier ones they offer, about 75 quid and 265 grams for the pair. Moving up to Ultegra, their PD-R8000 pedals, about 90 to 100 quid and 248 grams for the pair. And finally, their top of the line Dura-Ace pedals, PD-R9100, about 150 quid for those and 228 grams for the pair. Now these ones that I picked up from AliExpress, around 40 quid, so easily the cheapest of the three, and they weigh just over 200 grams. So yeah, by far the lightest as well. In fact, let me show you. So I've got the scales on here. That's one pedal there, and that's the next one. 203 grams for these things. They're from a brand called Onirii, and I've used a couple of things from them before, and they've seemed pretty decent. They're SPD-SL compatible pedals. The body is made of a kind of a carbon composite, so chopped up carbon fiber set in a thermoplastic or thermoset resin, and the axle is also made of titanium alloy to save as much weight as possible. Much like the Shimano pedals, they've got a stainless steel kick plate running through the middle for added durability. You can obviously adjust the release tension via a screw at the back, and you can even service this whole pedal and take it apart to get to the bearings. So you can sort of unthread the whole axle like so. I've already loosened this off so I can kind of do it by hand, but then it pulls out. This is well, it's just the kind of shell of the pedal. This is the whole axle assembly here. It's got the cartridge bearings inside, and you can undo this nut and pull the whole axle out to service the bearings. You know what, let me give that a go actually. I'll kind of unscrew this and take this whole thing apart. All right, let's give this a go. Unscrew that like so. Perfect, look at that. Okay, so the axle here has a nice rubber gasket on the end to help keep water and dust out of the pedal, and that grease is really thick and sticky. So yeah, that should help kind of keep things nicely sealed up and watertight. Now the axle body here, I guess you could call it, there's a needle roller bearing in the front there, which is nice to see, but unfortunately it doesn't look like you can get it out because well, there's no lip. It's press fit in, and it seems to be flush with the inside, so you'd really struggle to get that out. Luckily, this cartridge bearing on the end, you can replace this. So let me kind of try and get a shot of the inside. So hopefully you can see the back of the bearing there through the kind of axle body. So you should be able to push that out from the kind of back. But yeah, either way, this is serviceable. This one at the front here, this needle roller bearing, isn't. So not quite as serviceable as a kind of Shimano based pedal, but still decent quality, and this should last a pretty long time in my opinion. Now the weatherproofing on these does seem pretty decent actually. So you will have seen that rubber gasket in the teardown, and that's seemingly the only water ingress point actually, because it's completely sealed on that side. So I've got high hopes for the kind of durability in terms of sort of weatherproofing. It's worth stating as well, you can also get these in a variant with a chromoly steel axle. It'll be a little bit heavier, but a little bit cheaper as a result. And you can even get it with a kind of extended titanium axle. So if you want a slightly wider stance, a slightly wider Q factor, they've got that covered as well. And one other point worth mentioning is that they're quite nicely weighted. So if I let them go, they rest nicely at a 12 o'clock position. And these are fresh out of the box as well. And even so, they fall down pretty swiftly. So after a little bit of use, that'll be even quicker as well. So in terms of clipping in and out at speed, that shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, with all that being said, let's get them on the bike and give them a rip.
2 weeks later.
So a couple of weeks and maybe 250, 300 miles later, what's the verdict on these things? Well, firstly, apologies if I look and sound a bit rough, not feeling great the last few days, but regardless, what about these pedals? Well, admittedly, I haven't done masses of distance on them, but I've really enjoyed using these. They're a nice, wide, stable pedal platform, and prior to putting these on, I hadn't used SPD-SL pedals for a couple of years, actually. I'd mainly been using these ones from Costelo that I've talked about before, but I forgot just how easy it is to clip in and out of SPD-SL pedal systems, and yeah, these are no exception. You can see they've loosened up a bit, so they sit nicely at that 12 o'clock position. So if you unclip at the lights, getting your foot back in, clipping in and getting the power down, super straightforward. And surprisingly, the cleats that came in the box with these pedals have been really, really good quality. I kind of expected them to be a bit naff, but they're seemingly as good as the kind of legitimate Shimano ones. So the base here is a proper glass fiber reinforced plastic or nylon, and normally on cheap cleats, this rubber peels off after the first ride or two, but here it's really well adhered and nice and durable, which is really cool. However, three small concerns that I've got with these pedals here. The first is that if you have a look, these two prongs out of the back here and here that hold the clip in place, that doesn't seem like the most robust design in the world, if you see what I mean, for being made of a carbon composite material. Now, the Dura-Ace pedals are made of exactly the same carbon composite, and looking at that design, the prongs out the back that hold the clip in place on the Dura-Ace pedals do seem to be of a similar thickness, so maybe I'm overthinking it. And objectively, I guess, most of your weight is going to be taken up by the kick plate on top just above the axle, so maybe these aren't load bearing, but yeah, it's been fine so far, but let me know what you think. Secondly, this retention clip on the back, it's made of the same carbon composite plastic as the rest of the pedal body. But looking at the way that Shimano does things, it seems like this rear clip on the Shimano pedals is always made of glass fiber reinforced plastic rather than carbon composite. And looking at the properties of the two materials, I can kind of understand why. Plastics that are reinforced with glass fiber tend to be slightly less rigid and more impact resistant compared to those reinforced with carbon. So when you're clipping in and out of the pedal the whole time, you want that rear clip to be as durable as possible to the abrasion created by the cleat. So I can kind of understand why Shimano chose that material for the retention clip. The glass fiber reinforced plastics tend to be slightly heavier, and that's the kind of trade-off. So I can understand why they chose carbon composite in this particular scenario. Kind of keeps the overall weight of the pedal as low as possible. I mean, it's still a very durable material, but you might find in the long term you trade the kind of extreme durability that Shimano pedals are known for kind of lightness in this particular instance, but I guess time will tell. And thirdly, there's no rider weight limit specified on these particular pedals with a titanium axle. Looking at my Time pedals that I got a little while back with a similar titanium axle, they specified a weight limit of, I think it was either 90 or 100 kilos. So I would suggest if you weigh over 100 kilos, steer clear of the versions with titanium alloy axles and go for the one with the chromoly steel axle, because that'll be a lot more durable. But yeah, one to keep in mind. But overall, if you use SPD-SL cleats, a pedal here that's lighter than Dura-Ace for just 40 quid, yeah, definitely worth a look, if you ask me. And I bought these myself, by the way, with my own cash. I wasn't sent them. This isn't sponsored or anything like that. But if all you're concerned about is dropping as much weight as possible, I've got another pedal for you. I've talked about these a couple of times before, and I've done a whole video on these actually, but they're from a brand called Costelo. And I ran these pedals on this bike here before I put these ones on, and they're so good that I've bought two sets of them actually, and I'm running an identical set on this road bike here that I ride all the time. So yeah, from a brand called Costelo on AliExpress. And to give you the crib notes, they're basically a complete knockoff of a discontinued pedal from Time, their Espresso 12 variety. They're a little bit more expensive than these ones here. So these are 40, these are about 80 quid, something like that. But these are 150, 155 grams for the pair compared to 200. I've used these Costelo pedals for years, thousands of miles into these. Yeah, a great choice. Not quite as easy to clip in and out of as the SPD-SL pedals, but still, once you get the muscle memory down, it's definitely not a problem. Now, the cleats don't last quite as long as SPD-SL cleats, but again, you can find them for really cheap on AliExpress. So pick up these, a couple of cleats, and you are set. So I'll put the details for these down in the description as well. Great for dropping as much weight as possible from your bike. So there we are, two lightweight pedal systems from AliExpress. I think my favorites are still the Costelo ones because I've been using them for years and they are 50 grams lighter. But regardless, these are staying on the bike for the next few months to give them a good shakedown, and I'll put the deets for both in the description for you. Right, I'm gonna go have a lemsip and a lunch, I think, because I feel like death. Right, see you next time, ciao.
It's the bonus clip time.
An update for you on this Wheeltop electronic group set that I'm running on this bike. So a couple of weeks back, I kind of showed my frustrations when initially setting up and using this group set. And to be honest with you, not much has changed really. I'm still finding it quite frustrating. Now, I eliminated most of the chain rub that I was facing up at the front by kind of fiddling around quite a lot with these high and low limit screws and re-indexing the whole cassette. I even took the front derailleur off and kind of repositioned it. And I've got rid of most of the chain rub here, but I still get some when the chain is in the lower ranges of the cassette here. But it is better than it was. Another thing that I've noticed, I get quite a lot of drivetrain noise coming out of the back. I kind of thought because I can individually index every single sprocket on the cassette very precisely using the app for this group set, I'd be able to eliminate most of the running noise at the back, but for whatever reason, it is quite noisy. I might try swapping this cassette out. This is a super lightweight cassette from a brand called Riro that I got on AliExpress, so I'll swap it out for a Shimano one and see if that helps. But yeah, either way, it is quite noisy, and I'm hoping it's not to do with the actual rear derailleur, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, I'm still using this, still getting some mileage on it, and in an upcoming video, I'll be pitting this directly to L2's ERX electronic group set, and I have a feeling the L2's probably gonna come out on top. But yeah, I'll be riding them back to back, so stay tuned for that. Right, anyway, see you next time. Ciao.